Today, we're looking at what might be one of the most versatile lures you can have for your summertime fishing. You can fish it deep, you can fish it shallow, you can fish it in open water, you can fish it in the heaviest cover, and it catches bass. It might just be the absolute perfect bait for your summer fishing. What is it? Well, stick around. We're going to talk all about it. Oops, I'm getting hit again. There he is. Come on. Got him. This one's about, oh, this one's trying to dig in. Another good fish, another good fish. Come here, you. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And here in South Mississippi, summer is definitely getting into full swing. We've got temperatures near the century mark, and they're going to stay that way up until late September. The rest of the country is not far behind. That means that on the water, those bass are going to be heading out into their summer patterns. You're going to get a population that goes deep and stays there, and then you're going to get a population that stays shallow, up under docks, up under flooded brush. And we need a lure, a presentation that can get to all those spots and fish them effectively to get bites. And there's one that can do that all the time, and that's this guy right here, a swim bait. Just an ordinary regular swim bait, right? Now you got them all different types. The Rapala Crush City Mayors, these ones that I like a whole lot. You've got the Rage Swimmers. Guys love these. These things are great. They catch fish of all types in all different types of waters. And then for me, I have a wild card, one that I really like, and that's the Guggen Saucy Swimmer. And you can see I got these things on discount at Ollie's. Never underestimate a good fishing deal at Ollie's. If you have one in your area, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So why are swim baits so appealing? Well, because they're way more versatile than we give them credit for. When I started doing this video and I started putting the pieces together, I came to the realization that swim baits are exceptionally versatile. But before we get started, if you like bass fishing content that always tries to be inclusive, whether you're fishing from a boat or whether you're fishing from the bank, and always thinking about budget because not everyone has a lot of money to spend on bass fishing gear, then this is the channel for you. Click that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. So we're going to start at the very beginning, right? Just a regular Crush City Mayor. These things are great. And just a small little jig head. This is a 1/8 ounce swim jig head. This, I believe, is from Buckeye Lures. And you just rig it up there and you go fishing, right? You cast it out and you bring it back. And it's great for eliciting strikes from bass that are hunting prey species, minnow balls, shad balls, or what have you. You can just reel it right through there nice and slow and get some great strikes. Now, when I'm rigging these up, I do these a little bit differently than you might have seen before. And that is, instead of going to the center, I go to the top and I push it through. And I make sure that I'm not breaking the surface until I actually come all the way through with that swim bait. Now, what this does is that actually gives me a lot more hook gap. Whenever I rig it through the top like that, I can go as close to the top as I possibly can without, compromising the bait. And that gives me a greater hook gap. And a greater hook gap obviously is going to give you a greater hookup rate. And something like this, just a regular old swim bait on a jig, cast it out there, bring it through, like we said. This is what everybody thinks of when they think of swim bait fishing. But there's so much more to this. I fish a lot of heavy cover. I fish a lot of hydrilla. And you might think, well, lowbrow, just use the EWG hook with the screw lock on it, right? And I do have a lot of these, but the truth is I rarely use them. And the reason being for me is because that lip right there on that weight, that will snag hydrilla, that will snag grass way more than you think it will. You want a perfectly smooth profile when you're coming around that hook shank. You give hydrilla any reason to snag onto something, and it will. That ear grass, that real thin, wispy grass that just seems to coat everything, it'll get hung up on that. So what am I doing instead? Well, you guys already know because I've talked about it before, and that is I take a small jig. This is a bitsy flip, and I'll take the skirt off of it. This works so much better because I can do the same things with it. I can take it and rig it in that same fashion. I can put it right there near the top, and I can flip it through and pop it back out, push it up on that jig head, And this is what I started doing several years ago. You guys have been calling this the lowbrow rig, but it's just basically a bitsy flip without a skirt that I put a swim bait on. Now this actually comes through that thick vegetation so much better than a belly weighted EWG. I've got all the things I'm looking for. I've got a smooth profile. I've got that inline line tie right there that just goes straight and smooth with it. That brush guard, this comes through vegetation like butter. And I have caught a ton of fish doing this. Normally, I'm using a 1/4 ounce. I might go down to a 1/8 ounce, but I'm never really going any heavier than that because if I'm fishing hydrilla, then obviously I'm fishing shallow, so I don't really need a very heavy weight in order to be effective. And I've caught so many fish doing this. You guys have seen all the fish that I've caught using this little setup. Okay, that covers fishing in the shallows through that thick vegetation. So we've got a regular swim bait setup and we've got just the swim jig that I've put together with that swim bait. But the next thing is, well, what if we've got some wind? What if we've got some current? What if we have some stain in the water? What if we need just a little bit of thump and a little bit of flash? Well, that's where I started this. I call it the beetle swim. You may have a different name for it. And this is just a beetle spin blade that I've clipped to that same regular standard swim bait head. I've rigged it the same way, trying to get as much gap on that EWG as I can, the same type of bait. And instead of tying it there, I just, like I would normally a beetle spin, I'm using that as the line tie. And I can work this in a lot of those same areas. Believe it or not, this is actually fairly weedless, as that little clip right there acts as a pretty good weed guard, and it just pushes everything out of the way. Just like a regular spinnerbait is very weedless, more weedless than a lot of people think it is. This is along those same lines. Now this gives me just a little bit of a different presentation. I've got that thump, I've got that shine, and it also looks like a few bait fish that have schooled up, which is even more enticing to those bass. Especially those larger bass who are looking to feed on more than one small minnow in one gulp. They don't want to waste all the energy chasing 1 or 2 small fish, so they generally go after those bigger fish, those bigger crowds of fish. And this imitates that pretty good, especially, like I said, whenever we've got some wind, whenever we've got some current, fishing it up in the shallows. I've caught tons of fish. You guys have seen, I've done several videos on that beetle swim setup, and I've always had a great amount of success on it. Now, that setup, I'm usually fishing on a spinning combo. I'm usually using something like a 7-foot medium light or a medium with a softer tip. I've got 10-pound braid tied on the thing ordinarily, and I can work it through those areas, finesse style, slow roll it like I would a normal spinnerbait, and I can get bite after bite after bite as those fish just clamor after that little bait. Well, har he har 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 he har 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 he har he har har he har he har he har. Get it up a little higher, I guess. Oh, that's a big fish. That's not a small fish. He smacked up poop out of it. Oh, that's a big fish. Wow, he's not putting up any fight now. Yeah, but that's still a nice fish. Thank you. Yeah. But we know where they are. We know exactly where they are. That dude there's about 1.25 pounds. Got him on the beetle swim. Look how beautiful that is. Gorgeous, gorgeous fish. Thank you so much. So let's step things up, right? We're talking about how versatile this is. Well, let's step things up, and I'm going to show you this monstrosity that I came up with here recently. And that's something I call the dum-dum rig. And that's where I've taken the same idea with the beetle spin, but I put it on an underspin head. And this I've got a little bit bigger. This is a 4.8. This is a Guggen Saucy Swimmer. And sometimes I'm going to use just a little bit bigger swim bait head because I'm going to be fishing this just a little bit further out. This is a 3/8 underspin. 1/4 ounce would be fine. Even up to a 1/2 ounce should be fine depending on how you're fishing it. But I've been fishing this while I can fishing it along those weed edges, along that submerged creek channel, which is where I love slow rolling this. I can work it along timber. I can parallel the bank with my boat Or if you are a bank angler, you can just find places like laydowns, right? Cast out to the end and slowly bring it back to you up and over that cover. This will do it. This actually comes through cover pretty good, just nice and easy up and over. And this is almost like a miniature Alabama rig. And that was kind of the inspiration for this design. Is a lot of guys can't fish an Alabama rig. The laws in the area, or they don't have the equipment for it, or they don't have the money to pay for such an expensive apparatus. This right here, nice and cheap. It's much cheaper setup than buying an entire umbrella rig kit, especially with all the jig heads and all the swim baits. This is a pared down version of that. And you know what? Those bass have a hard time resisting it. Ever since I started fishing the Dum Dum rig, I've just been catching so many fish, piles and piles and piles of fish. And it gives me another way to attack those bass. I can do it nice and shallow, and I can fish it out deep. We have one spot out on the big lake that has some flooded timber. It's got some trees that are just standing straight up. It's the only spot on the entire big lake. And as you would suspect, it's relatively deep. It sits in about 25 feet of water, right at the deepest spot on the entire lake. And bass like to congregate around that area, especially in the summertime. Now, in the fall, I like to fish a spoon. A regular flutter spoon through that area is great for catching those cold winter bass. But during the summertime, I use something like this. I want to be able to get down there, so I cast it out and I let it fall, right? Almost like I'm doing like a countdown minnow or something like that. I cast it out there, I let it fall all the way down, and then I begin my slow retrieve as it pendulums back to me. And I get crushed. I have absolutely gotten some big bites with this using that technique in some deeper water. But again, if I want to fish shallow along the bank, if I want to parallel the bank and work right up against the flooded brush or right up against the laydowns or a weed edge or whatever, I can do that with this too. So I have so much versatility with the various different types of swim baits. You know, you can start with this, and this is what everybody thinks of, but you don't have to stay here, especially if you're a bank angler and you have very, very limited space. You know, a lot of times we get lure-itis, don't we, where we have to have all the lures. We need all the lures, and we change out and we change out and we change out 50,000 times and not get any results. Well, sometimes just a subtle tweak is all you really need. A change of location in the water and a subtle tweak to the presentation. We can go from this up to this, up to this, and finally up to this. And that gives us 4 different ways we can rig a swim bait, and each one of those different ways allows us to fish it completely differently. It opens up so many different possibilities, and it gives us new presentations that those bass aren't seeing, which, especially in a pressured fishery, is going to elicit a lot of good bites. So think about that when you're fishing this summer. So there you have it, the humble swim bait. Who knew it could do so many things and be so versatile? I'm telling you, give this a try. You'll find that the more you use it, the more ways you can find to use it and keep those bites coming. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.